secular trend, this exponential age of technology that people are starting to get. They still barely get it. And then we've just had this political shift, which is like an accelerant in the middle of that. And these are, this is a very, very important 4 years. So if we think about at the very top level, if we think about the entire political system has basically been that battle between labor and capital, the workers and the owners, right? That's really, it's always been, and that balance always keeps shifting around depending where the national psyche is. But what happened this election was it was run on those grounds, but it was not won on those grounds. The people who won the White House, it's not Donald Trump. He's a one-time president. What actually happened is the new political battle of our lifetimes, maybe the defining political battle of all time, which is the battle of the humanists and the transhumanists. So before I get into that, what's happened is the technologists, the accelerationists have taken the White House. I mean, at every level. JD Vance was one of them. Vivek's one of them. Elon Musk is literally the king of all of them. He saw the bet. He backed the entire thing, pushed it through. Look at the largest PACs. It's the super PAC formed by Brian Armstrong and A16Z. That was the crypto PAC. The whole battle here is all about the one of technology. So what we will find is they've redefined the entire political landscape forever, probably, away from capital and labor to this new thing of who wants the technology and who doesn't. Now, the issue is here is in the future, there will be no labor. So it can't be a battle between capital and labor because the labor is the AI and the robots. The battle is going to be how fast we want to accept this technological change. But if you realize how fast this is all happening, how fast AI is developing, we will be at AGI by the time the presidency changes. We will have gone to Mars by the time the presidency changes. We will have one man owning the largest private communications network in the world by the time this finishes. We will have crypto adopted in the financial system. So this is why the super PAC has raised another 110 billion for the midterms. This is their one shot at a free run of completely changing the course of history. So it's not about politics. It's not about woke versus this and all the things we think it is. This is going to be the fastest pace of change in a 4-year period I think humanity's ever lived through. And nobody's ready for it.
I would love to just hear, obviously you could say, these are folks that are just trying to, make more money. And sure, that's partially, we live in a capitalist system and makes sense to have profit incentives, but I feel like there might be a bigger game at play here, don't you think? And I'm curious, like, what do you think it is, especially with respect to what you talk about in terms of macro, in terms of, global over indebtedness, demographic declines, and those ideas?
Yeah. So before we get into that,
Mm-hmm.
anybody, and I'm sure pretty much everybody who watches your show has read the book, The Fourth Turning.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. Go and reread the last 2 chapters again and tell me this is not the grey-haired guy, the last person before everything changes. I've even asked ChatGPT about this, and it's like, yeah, this is the last election before the new change happens. So the new change will redefine politics. So it is an entirely new system being put in place. This whole Department of Doge and all of this is really all about dismantling the old system and rebuilding the new system. And we don't fully know what it looks like, and nobody does. What is the role of the IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations, all of this? We have no idea. So that's really what's happening. But on an economic level, it's also vital because what we've got, and I've produced a chart many times, which is the chart of the labor force participation rate, and inverted is debt to GDP. This is the most important chart of macro, and nobody's ever reproduced it or shown it. It's so fucking obvious. is as the population ages, comes out of the labor force, you have to offset it by debt. If not, growth goes down, because the magic formula of GDP is population growth plus productivity growth plus debt growth. So the debt growth is just offsetting the population decline and the lack of productivity of old people. But this keeps going on and on and on, and the way of paying for it has been what I refer to in the everything code as the debasement of currency. It's the general use of excess liquidity to service interest payments on debts and keep rolling the old debts that creates this 4-year cycle. I think we even talked about last time. So that big picture, there's no way out of that trap. There's no way you can have austerity enough to stop that. I mean, it's impossible. The US government is over 100% of GDP in debt. So there is just no way. And the world is, what, 400% of GDP in debt. I mean, it's just like, this is la la land numbers because we've got this aging population everywhere. So the only way out of it is to grow your way out. So if you hear about Scott Bessent coming in, what he's saying is, listen, what I want to try and do is increase growth because that's the only thing we've got. Problem is, it's too difficult to try and have growth long enough in an aging population, above 3% or so, or nominal growth. So that's plus inflation at 5 or 6% to erode this stuff away. It takes decades. So yes, it buys you a bit of time. The reality is we replace humans with AI and robots, and then we can have infinite humans. And I think that starts happening within 2030, where the multiplier, as opposed to seeing shrinking humans and countries then trying to get an advantage by importing people, and then it gets thrown out of the political process, this whole strain, what we're going to do is we're going to import robots or grow robots and AI. And at first we won't notice it. Like Amazon, I think now employs more robots than humans. You don't notice these things, but they happen. And they get faster and faster and faster. And by the time we get to about 2030, we'll start breaking the economic system, where we don't even know what any of this means anymore. What GDP growth means, who does it accrue to, what do we do in the future, how do financial markets work when AGI is around? All of these mega things are all happening. But what we've just done is secured a government that's going to make that happen, whether we like it or not. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of good things about it and a lot of bad things about it, but we're going to have to go through this, and we're going to split people into those who do not want this to happen, whether it's protecting jobs or old ways of life or just understanding the world around us or not having this God character called AGI. There's many, many things, religion, all of this is going to get wrapped up in this. And the other side are the others who I already wear an Apple Watch, sleep in an 8-sleep bed, and I do this, and fuck it, I want to merge with the machines. I could live forever. This is where we're going, and this is the battle of humanity.
Yeah. I mean, when you mentioned the fourth turning, and, the core undercurrent of that is this idea of conflict. And it feels like, when you circle back to where we were in 2008 versus today, we went through, the secular stagnation, folks are calling it. And it felt like that was the attempt to just patch things over with debt increases like you talked about. But, do you feel like the ultimate conflict, people have been wrong in calling it, the conflict between the woke and the non-woke, the Dems and the Republicans, it's accelerationism versus
the old one was everybody felt left behind, right? Nobody could buy a house. Everybody felt let down by the economic system. That was Occupy Wall Street. That was, the Indignados in Spain, when 4 million people marched on the streets of Madrid. It's all the same thing. And the politics has been split between, in the US, the middle Americans and the coastal Americans, both feeling pissed off and left behind and blaming each other. And the parties have fed that. But it was never the problem. The problem was the demographics. So now we've got the answer to the problem, but people don't want that, will not want this either. And so, as you said, we're setting up for the new conflict. So the old conflicts was the demographics. From World War II, too many baby boomers caused the entire structure of our society. Everything that we understand today was driven by the baby boom cohort, and we're just about to change everything to be driven by the AI cohort.